of a clip from the show The Doctors, where we talk about the double standards between men and women when it comes to DV. Let's get into it.
I want to move on to something we talk a lot on the show about, domestic violence. In this next viral video, a hidden camera experiment in the UK revealed some shocking reactions to domestic violence on the street.
So, before we get into this, just, catch what he said. Remember, this is just a test. This is an experiment to see how the public reacts to these situations. So...
What? Get your hand off me.
Come here.
Get your hand off me.
Who was there?
Get your hand off me.
Who was there? Tell me who was there.
People are...
Cal, look at the seriousness of the way that people are watching this. Like, they're immediately drawn to that. Like, they're not happy about what's going on right now.
Looking at us. People are looking at us. Get your hand off me. Stop my look. People are looking at us. What's wrong with you?
We're fine.
I'm glad, thanks. Okay, can someone call the police if you carry on doing that to someone?
Look how quick people came to her rescue. And they surrounded this guy. Obviously they don't know this is an experiment, but they surrounded this guy, and that's what, wouldn't normally happen in public. Personally, I think the guys are kind of weak for not being the ones to approach, because in most situations, especially here in the U.S., the man would be like, look, dude, you better back off or you're going to deal with me. Because that's the way me and most guys who come from where I come from were raised, is that you just do not tolerate things like that. And these women clearly didn't. They were like, look, dude, you can't be doing that. And they got very serious about it. They were ready to call the cops. Look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 women around him, plus this one. So he is now outnumbered. Even if he gets the better of one, he's got 4 other ones he's got to deal with. Even though this is an experiment, I'm just saying, if it was a real life situation, even if he was actually going to, go after this woman, he's got this one, this one, this one, and this one that's going to jump on him to protect her.
Okay.
If I don't, someone else will.
So now we get to see what the public would do if the roles were reversed. If the woman was the one being aggressive towards the man.
You haven't listened. You haven't got anything I've been saying to you. You're not even listening to me, that's what. Why do I push you like that? Because you won't on to me, and you won't listen to me. Family. I wasn't being happy.
Look at that. She's laughing. He's laughing. He's laughing. The other two in the clip right before this one were laughing. This is funny to them. Because it's the woman against the man. It's her pushing him around. Now it's funny. It's not serious anymore. It's a joke. Ha ha ha! Look at that idiot being tormented by his wife or girlfriend or whatever she is supposed to be to him. Like, that's funny now. It wasn't funny when he was doing it. It's funny now that she's doing it. It's really messed up.
No, you can't be. Don't try to walk away. Stop. Listen to me when I'm talking. Don't try to walk away from me. Stop it.
Look. She just threw him into a pole. And look at these two right here are just laughing it up. Like, oh my God, look at this. This is so funny. This is hilarious. And if that was a real situation, I guarantee you that is not hilarious to the man. And for most men who are respectful men, who were raised with that mentality and that value that, boys or men are not supposed to hit females. And so you're trying to hold true to that value while this woman is just hitting you and throwing you around and berating you in public. And while everyone come to her rescue when he was doing it to her, everyone's laughing at him when she's doing it to him. I mean, it's really, dude. I mean, even though this is a joke, if this was real life, I would feel bad for the dude because she had plenty of help, and he has all of these people around, and nobody's coming to help him out.
So we showed you that because people were actually laughing when the girl was hitting the guy, yet people were willing to intervene when the woman was the victim.
See what I mean? They were laughing when it was her attacking him, but they were very quick to intervene when it was him attacking her. So how is that right? And I'm not saying it's okay for a man to hit a woman. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it is also not okay for a woman to hit a man. And yet society and the court system and law enforcement sees it as a joke.
40% of domestic violence victims are men. And I think this highlights something we often don't think about, which is domestic violence can affect anyone.
Yeah.
And that was actually covered by someone else in one of my other videos, and she actually mentioned that very stat right there, that 40% of men, and I don't know if that's worldwide or if that's in the U.S., but either way, that's a great deal of the male population that is a victim to that. And how many people do you think is standing up for them? Obviously, just based on the experiment, nobody. Nobody's helping them out. And I mean, like he said, I mean, it can affect anybody, male or female. It can affect anybody. But the law enforcement and the court system and so many other different agencies don't see it that way. It is not possible in their eyes for the man to be the victim.
Yeah, you know, I think what's interesting about this social experiment is you can almost be tempted to fall into the line of thinking when you watch the woman attacking the man, well, what are the chances that she could really hurt him? That is not the point.
It really is not the point. Yet that is the way society and law enforcement and the court system see it. Is if you are a man who is a victim of that and you try to get help, and that's why, like, the same video where the stat was stated about the 40% of men are victims to that, the same lady mentioned that, you know, the suicide rate for men is much higher than it is for women, and that's usually what it comes down to, and that's usually the reason why, is because they're dealing with that very same situation, and every time they bring it up, they get that kind of answer. Well, what is she really going to do to you? How much damage can she really do to you? I mean, she's going to slap you a few times, but you're a man, you should be able to handle that. That does not mean you should have to. That does not mean it's okay. And laws are supposed to be gender equal. It does not matter your gender. It does not matter your ethnicity. The laws are supposed to be equal. Yet they are not. Clearly. They are clearly favoring women over men. Men are just undermined. And that's why when you hear the phrase man up or take it like a man, that's where that comes from. In situations just like that. They're like, oh my God, stop complaining about this woman hitting on you. Man up, take it like a man. Like, really? I mean, because the law was supposed to be there to protect and make sure that he doesn't have to do that. That he doesn't have to take that abuse. You're forcing him to and laughing at him at the same time. How is that right? How is that justice? How is that equality?
Point is not physical size, physical strength, the fact that it's probably more likely for a man physically to overpower or injure a woman. The point is abuse and violence, and it can be physical, it could be emotional, it could be psychological, it could be financial. And it does not discriminate, as you said. It affects men also. And I think, you mentioned as we were watching it, it's always the women who stick up for the woman. But who stuck up for that guy? Nope.
Exactly. As you said, it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be psychological, it could be financial. And that usually means the woman is doing those things to the man. It's the man who is being the victim of those situations. And like she just said, who came to his aid? Who came to help him out? No one. They sat back and they laughed at him. Look, this lady's eating a bag of chips, laughing at him, talking to this guy over here about what she's seen. And this guy's over here laughing at him. Nobody's helping him out. I would have. Honestly, I would have. If I would have been there, even if it was an experiment, obviously I wouldn't have known it was an experiment, but if I would have been there and she was doing that, I'd have been like, look, lady, you need to chill out. You need to back up. You need to give this man some space and stop beating on this man. Like, as I don't care what he did, assault is never, or violence is never the option. Shouldn't be. And, I mean, and that's really the double standards here, is you punish men, and when I say you, I mean society and law enforcement and the court system all punish men who are violent towards the women. But they do not punish the women that are violent towards men. Even though the law says that is exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to hold the woman equally accountable.
Well, and I think it gets back to something we talked about on the show. We've come a long way, and even just the last year with all the awareness that was raised on these really highly publicized cases of domestic violence. But I think there's always been a bit of a tendency to say, well, it's got to be her fault if the woman is the victim. And now I think you see the laughing there. It's, well, I'm sure he deserved it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the danger.
And that's the other side of it. Like, the one side you got where they're saying, you know what, you're a man, you should be able to handle some slaps from a woman. Alright? And most men know that a lot of modern women these days do not slap you. They will punch you. And I know that for a fact. Okay? But then there's that side of it that he was talking about, where the man probably deserved what he got. Whether he did or not, doesn't matter. That's just the way it's presumed. Is that, well, if she's acting this way towards him, he probably deserved it. Whereas if he's acting this way towards her, then he's just aggressive and controlling and insecure. Alright, but even though this was an experiment, let's just say hypothetically that this was a real situation and the woman was really doing that to a man, because it does happen. Alright, so if she's willing to treat him like that in public, what do you think she is doing to him behind closed doors when no one is watching? I can guarantee you it is much worse. That does not mean he deserves what she's doing to him. That just means she is the aggressor. She is the abuser. And you as a society and you as a legal system is not holding her accountable for that. You're justifying it by saying he probably, quote unquote, probably deserved it. You don't even know that he deserved it. You're just coming to that conclusion because he's a man. And again, that's double standards, man. You can't do that. The Constitution is there to protect everyone who is a U.S. citizen. Everyone, male or female. Doesn't matter what ethnicity. That doesn't even matter. And even the gender doesn't matter. Everyone is supposed to be protected by the Constitution. And it is up to our law enforcement and our court system, our legal system, to uphold that Constitution. And they're not doing that. Because by saying that right there, what you are saying is that it is okay for that woman to hit that man because he, quote unquote, probably deserved it. Whereas if you look at the Constitution, everyone is supposed to have a right to be able to defend themselves, protect themselves, and be protected by the law. Everyone. So why is that not happening? And the only way that is going to change is by addressing it. Because you can't make a change. You can't just hope for things to change and expect them to change. Because, you know, a lot of times, especially when it comes to, you know, society, the social media, and the legal system, you know, they choose to pretend that things are not the way that they really are. Because that means they have to change the way they do what they do. And they don't want to have to do that. They're stuck in their routine. They're stuck in. It's easier for them to say that a woman is the victim and the man is the aggressor, because it just, as a judge, that makes his job easier. As a police officer and a detective, it makes his job easier, because he didn't. Neither one of them have to do a real investigation. The law enforcement don't have to do a real investigation because they already know the judge is going to believe her. And the judge doesn't have to do a real investigation because he already knows he's going to side with her. And yet their job is to uphold the Constitution. So how is that double standard upholding the Constitution?
Danger with domestic violence is if we don't get to a point where, look, if you're being abused, no matter who you are, just to be like, oh, I'm sure they deserved it. That's where I think the laughing comes from.
But at the end of the day, we have to understand that any type of violent motion or movement to another person, it is terrible. And it's against the law. And it's...
Any type of violent motion towards another person is terrible and is against the law. And that is absolutely true. Absolutely true. And again, it does not matter what your gender is. That's supposed to be true on both sides, yet it's not. Because, I mean, I have come across so many different videos of guys who were falsely accused and, did, time for something that they didn't even do. Simply because a woman accused them of doing it. Even though there was no physical proof. There was no overwhelming evidence. It was just her word against his. And they believed what she said. And this guy spent 5 years in prison for something he didn't even do. And this other guy lost his college scholarship for something he didn't even do. Simply because the woman said he did it. I mean, that just shows you how quick our legal system is when it comes to buying into whatever story that women want to cook up. And that's why y'all have got to be careful out there. Make sure if you're going to get into a situation with a woman, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. If she's a beautiful woman and you're having a good time, but you start seeing things that said, man, she's really crazy, get out. Okay, get out. Because it's only going to get worse. It really is. And in the end, you're going to be the one paying the price for it, not her.
Considered abuse. And if anyone you know is suffering from this type of thing, you really should do your part in trying to intervene.
The one thing about that video that I took away is early intervention. If you do see something like this occurring, the earlier you intervene before it gets to true violence where maybe there's weapons involved, you know, and that's, you intervene and you do what that woman said, which is, I'm going to call the cops. And that will diffuse the situation really, really quickly in many cases.
Yeah, but they only did that for the woman. That's the problem. They only did that for the woman. They didn't do that for the man. They wasn't going to call the cops on the woman for abusing the man. They laughed at him. So, I mean, that's a true statement. I mean, you got to intervene. Even if you know, like I said, if I would have been there, I would have definitely intervened. I would have been like, look, chick, you need to back up because you're being a little crazy right now. And you're throwing this guy against the pole and you're throwing against the fence. And right now, this is just too much. You need to back up. Alright, I would have intervened. But nobody there did that. And so many people in society will not do that. When it is the woman who is being aggressive towards the man. Because like they stated earlier, just a minute ago, is that, you know, when society looks at that situation, when they look at a woman being aggressive to a man, they're looking at it like, well, he probably deserved it. He probably did something stupid. Because that's just the way they see us. Like, we're just notorious for doing stupid stuff. And the only really stupid thing you're doing is dealing with a woman who's going to do that to you. Get out. When it comes to dating, especially in 2021, you as a man, your only real power in the relationship is the ability to walk away. If you're not strong enough to do that, don't get into a relationship. Because when things start going south, when things start going bad, and you find yourself in a bad situation, if you are not strong enough to be able to walk away from that, you're gonna end up in a much, much, much worse situation.
Now, if you are watching and you or someone in your life is the victim of domestic violence, there is a lot of help available. You can find resources and information at When Georgia Smiled, the Robin McGraw.
Just to correct that real quick, the only resources that are available to women. It was actually covered in one of my other videos. The same woman who brought up the 40% of men are victims. Excuse me. And she mentioned that when it comes to situations like that on both sides, there are over 2,000 shelters for women, meaning plenty of support for women. There's only one in the U.S. for men, meaning we have no support. So when he says there's plenty of support out there, understand he means there's plenty of support for women. There is not plenty of support for men. And even that little experiment, that video experiment, you know, really kind of helps put that into perspective, because, like, you know, so many people came to her aid very, very quickly, and no one came to his aid. And that's the resources we have, is no one. And when we try to reach out for it, what you saw with the public laughing at them, that's what we get. We get laughed at. And we get told that we probably deserved it. It's a really crappy thing to try to instill in a man's mindset that he deserved the abuse that he got from the woman that he loved.